Hello, I'm Karen. I wrote this. Did you know that most speakers write their own introductions? Then we have them read by someone else as if we didn't write all that glowing stuff about ourselves. This seems funny to me. So today, I decided to be straight up and just cut to the chase. If you want to find out about my education and my work history, or see a bad high school photo of me, just Google Karen McNanny. If you want to know me, well, just pay attention for the next 15 minutes. I will try to say something worthy of your attention. Now, please applaud loudly and stroke my ego before I start talking.
Thank you, Dee Dee.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's so shameless and so glorious. Do you ever feel like you could just use a few rounds of applause in your day? If you feel like that might be you, like you could just use a round of applause, just jump up right now, stand where you're at. All right. Could we applaud these lovely ladies? Woo! Now, more interesting to me is what's going on with all of you that are still sitting down. Because couldn't we all use a little more atta-girl and our one atta-boy? Yeah, and something is going on there that keeps us in our seat. That voice, that inner narrative that starts to say, oh yeah, that would be nice, but I'm not really deserving of applause or gratitude or support because I didn't do enough, I'm not enough, I should have, why didn't I? Do you get that narrative going? Yeah, I certainly have that voice in my head. She sits here. I finally named my evil twin, Lydia. You might need to name your evil twin so that you can ask her or him or the whole symphony to be quiet from time to time. So I'm curious, and you know who you are. You're sitting there and you're thinking, I didn't stand. I kind of wish that I had. Lydia was just in my head, and maybe you just were enjoying your cup of coffee. That's fine. But if you were having that I'm not good enough narrative and I would have kind of liked that applause, would you just maybe find that little brave self and stand now? Yeah. What's your name? Hi, Nancy. Will you come to me, Nancy? Come. Because Nancy is about to be your teacher. I'm here to be a master facilitator of your wisdom. That's the best I can do. The best I can do is to squeeze you, to squeeze whatever else is already sitting inside of you. I'm squeezing Nancy. How you doing, Nancy?
I don't know yet.
Because really, you don't need to do anything other than just be here for a moment so that we can witness our warrior with wobbly knees. Because sometimes that's what it takes, is our wobbly knees to bring us to a place of being witnessed and to have the courage to stand up for ourselves. So Nancy, how are you feeling right now? Wait, let me come to this side. Speak into my lapel.
I'm feeling warm.
She's feeling warm. You got anything else for me?
Dry mouth.
Uh-huh.
Sweaty palms.
Uh-huh.
Uncomfortable.
So we've got dry mouth, sweaty palms, some extra heat, uncomfortable, safe to say feeling a little vulnerable.
Feel naked a little bit.
A little exposed and naked.
In all these layers, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And this right here, what Nancy's demonstrating for us, is really the center point of community And this is your community. And not only are they seeing us, but we see you. And without our capacity to be seen and to see each other, there is no community. So rather than cheer Nancy with all of our gushingness as she returns to her seat, I want us to all just be mindful and in witness of this warrior as she returns. And in that quiet, go ahead, run along now.
Run.
You don't have to run. But just to be in witness and present. Judy's got a high five. I think that's appropriate. Yeah. In its essence, that is what community is about. But if we're unable to receive and to be vulnerable, then the community can't happen. And sometimes those inner voices and that inner narrative is precisely what gets in the way of us bringing a relationship into our life. And that's really all community is these micro relationships between the folks we're sitting next to, our co-workers, our roommates, whatever form they might take at home, even the line at the grocery store. And to have the courage, which is the antidote to the vulnerability. And I am struck in our society anymore sometimes how difficult it is for us to receive that vulnerability. For me to say, I see you. I see you. I see you, Mom. I invited my mom today. And I feel a different layer of vulnerability with you today because it's not often that I speak in my hometown. I know people in this audience. Last week I got to get on a plane and fly to a faraway land, Idaho. Speak to a bunch of strangers, get on my plane and come back home. But today I see all of you seeing me. Seeing me with a new hairdo. So nice. You really should squeeze it, ladies, right? Seeing me with a new name. What's that about? And in fact, we haven't seen much of Karen for like 2 or 3 years, which can mean only one of two things: witness protection program or midlife crisis. I wish I was interesting enough to be in the witness protection program, but it's just a midlife crisis. And I would be delighted to talk to anyone else who's in the middle of their midlife crisis, has had a midlife crisis, or is planning to have a midlife crisis. And I'll be here when lunch is over, having coffee talk with Karen, and we can chat all about the new hair, the new name, and the MIA period. But I am back. And what I know that I need is all of you, in this room and out of this room. I can't move through my own personal crisis or my growth alone. Not only can I not do it, I'm not supposed to do it. It's what I call the belly button effect. Yes, I said belly button. Funny little things, aren't they? Technically, medically known as the umbilicus, derived from the word umbilical cord. You know, and the funniest thing about our belly buttons is that everybody has one. Innies, outies, squigglies, pierced, tattoo, fuzz-filled. The list goes on and on. But to me, they're this amazing reminder that all of us, I'm going to just say all of us, there might be a story out there I haven't heard yet, but that all of us walking this planet with our little belly buttons started in that same amazing relationship in connection with someone else. Truly in connection through that umbilical cord, which then provided our oxygen, our food source, all the nourishment that we needed in order to thrive and come into this world. It is the essence of what makes us thrive is our capacity to connect. And then oddly enough, we arrive in this world, and what's the first thing that happens? Yes. We are disconnected upon arrival. And I have this belief that we then spend much of our lives with this hunger and this desire that's very primal and very real to reach it back out and to reconnect. Because our biology tells us that it is only in connection that we thrive, that we're able to build that community. So it's interesting in this time and era, when I think about connection and this belly button effect, that there's a lot of isolation going on paradoxically. Do you find that as well? Yes. And there's two components to this, the first of which I would like to lay at the foot of technology. And I'm not going to denounce technology. We can't. It's here to stay. However, I have two theories about how technology is supporting and paradoxically getting in the way of our capacity to connect in the ways that are meaningful as humans. And one is, I believe that technology is the fast food approach to creating relationships. Now, there is a time and a place for fast food. Believe me, I am a mother. I have young children. And there is a time and a place when fast food is the answer for them and for me. Thank you very much, drive-through. However, if that is my only source of nourishment, we're going to be in trouble. And so we think about that with our technology. If the technology becomes the primary source of how I'm connecting, how I'm relating, how I'm building the relationships important to my personal and professional life, we're going to run into trouble. Second to that, I believe that technology is beginning to support the erosion of our capacity to connect at a very intimate and emotional level with one another. Technology is eroding our capacity to connect at really meaningful and emotionally intimate levels. And erosion, by its very description, is that thing that you can't quite see until the cliff suddenly is gone. It's very slow, it's very subtle. I myself have grave concerns about how this is influencing our society and a generation that is now being reared where a lot of their contact and connection is happening through their fingertips. And as a result of that, there's things that we say and that we do through our fingertips that I wouldn't say when I'm facing Lila and having a heart-to-heart, knee-to-knee, nose-to-nose, eye-to-eye. And that is still who we are in our primal self. So I challenge you, as you think about the courage that you bring to creating community, there is that conversation that I need to have with that person, and it's a little uncomfortable, and I know it's not the outcome they were looking for. You know, I'm just going to send an email. We laugh because we know this story. And that emotion goes into then a communication form that is almost void of emotion and has lots of room for misinterpretation. And we push send. And then there's another send and another send. Another great indicator is that if you are typing a message and you can actually hear your fingers on the keyboard, don't push send. That one shouldn't go anywhere. I feel so strongly about these ideas, I decided that I should become my own critic and devil's advocate. So I started to research solitary confinement. All right, Karen, so we don't have a community and it's not a big love fest and Pollyanna, get over yourself. Okay, so if it's not there, then what's the worst that could happen? And many of you are already well aware that if people Primarily, we see this demonstrated in our prison system. And there's lots of research studies and interviews I've been listening to, wardens, prison guards, those that have had extended periods of time in prison, specifically in solitary confinement. What begins to happen to those people? They go crazy, psychotic breakdown. Because again, we're not intended to be isolated from one another. Which isn't to say that I should avoid solitude. And for me, that's kind of my work, because I'm always wanting to be with the people. But then I don't always find myself when I'm in the distraction of all of my abundant community. So we're not talking about solitude and contemplation and meditation in that quiet place. What I'm talking about is when we feel so isolated, when there's not a place that I belong, where I don't have someone to turn to when I know I don't want or need to be alone right now. That is the peril of isolation. And so that brings me to this other element that sometimes feeds into the perpetuation of that isolation. I call it the cave of shame. Anyone spent time in the cave of shame? So much so I don't even want to admit it here at this luncheon. Yeah. And I saw that starting to present itself to in my life during this last year as I mushed through my midlife crisis. And I had a pre-midlife. Is there going to be another one? Okay, good to know. And while I'm in that place, and Lydia suddenly has twins, right? And there's a symphony of you failed, you didn't, how come you couldn't, your children, your life, your career, and I start to disappear. Because it's at that time I really don't want to be seen. And ironically, that is the time that I most need my community, that we most need people. And for many of us, it's the most difficult time to reach out and bring them to us where we need them. And so I'm blessed because there's people in my life who won't let me hang out in the cave for too long. They show up. Karen, time to go for a walk, time to eat, time to laugh, time to watch a really sappy cry movie. Yeah. And so all of us have a responsibility to the communities we live in and the communities that we create to be that shower-upper at the cave door for other people. A shower-upper. I think I just made that up. I like it. You know who shows up really well in community? Kids. Kids, maybe it's because they're just in the belly button world, right? They're fresh. We've got some freshies in the room. I think there's 2 freshies. Fresh from the button. My children, Sophia and Patrick, I also refer to them as president and vice president of my life, my corporation, and all things gas pedal and brake. And Sophia, she must have been about 4 years old. They're 6 and almost 8 now. We were on a little road trip down I-90 headed to Idaho. We stopped at that Coeur d'Alene Perkins. You all know the Perkins on I-90 just off the exit. And Sophia and I go into the restroom, mother-daughter team. It is a team sport in our household. We're in our little stall minding our own business. And in walks another mother-daughter team. And they go in the stall next to us. And immediately, Sophia, she looks up at me, Mama, who is that? I don't know, Sophia, and we're not supposed to know. Come on, let's just get... And in the same breath, from the next stall, we hear, hello, I'm Elizabeth! Hi, I'm Sophia. Hi there, I'm Sophia. Mama, her shoes light up. You've got cool shoes. And these 2 girls launch into this conversation, which then carries on, of course, outside the stall. And you can feel the moms just starting to shrink, right? Because we're not supposed to. I know what story is going on, but soon enough, moms start to talk and girls are talking, and then it's, oh, kindergarten, when's her birthday? And well, we're thinking, are you going to hold back? Well, I don't know. This is how we're doing TV. And suddenly the Perkins bathroom is the United Nations of motherhood. I'm so struck by that moment because the shower-uppers under 4 feet tall know how to do it. They crave it. It's natural. They wouldn't know how to be any other way. Every playground we go to, there's a new best friend. Oh, Mama, do you want to meet my best friend? We're going to play. Oh, I'm going to know you forever. My little gurus teach me so much all the time. They just do it because it's in them. And what I want to remind us today is that it's in us as well. It is deep inside of us. My children in that moment and others, to me, are always demonstrating that spirit of curiosity. Who are you? What's your story? What are you about? I suggest to you that curiosity is not only a virtue, but it's a skill. It's a business skill. And it's in that curiosity that we find each other's stories and we find something deeper and richer. Those stories are the threads and the tapestry of our lives. And when we're very close to it, all we see are those individual threads. But when we stand back and we really see that person and we can see ourselves, they're beautiful tapestries. And every single one of them in this room is complex and unique and filled with extraordinary joy and deep pains. That's the human condition. So how do we continue to be curious about one another? That's a cornerstone of creating healthy community. Do y'all remember Mr. Rogers? Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood? Yes. Interesting, I heard, I have not fact-checked this myself, but Fred Rogers was a sniper in the military before his long career on PBS as America's Favorite Neighbor. When he passed away, they were going through his personal effects and they found this quote in his wallet. And it was written in his handwriting, not attributed to anyone. Maybe it was his original thought, but it said, "It's virtually impossible to dislike someone once you know their story." It's virtually impossible to dislike someone once you know their story. I may not want to go into business with you or even bowl with you on Saturday, but I now know something that I didn't know before that helps me to understand who you are, where you come from, why you do that thing every day at work that drives me crazy. And chances are the person that you most feel conflicted about is probably the person you should be most curious about. And that might help move that relationship from conflict to conversation in a way that you haven't done before. So we take the courage that Nancy helped to share with us. We take the curiosity that Sophia reminds us about, and we make a commitment to community. And that's what I'm going to invite you into now. If you would, you've probably noticed there's dominoes on your table. Ooh, except for this table. I suddenly need a lovely assistant. Lois, thank you. There's a black box right there. Lois is going to bring you the box of dominoes. Would you all find your domino? Yes, open it up and let those ladies each have a domino. Your domino's probably on your table, but it may not be. It may be at someone else's table, or you might have to see me afterwards to swap out and get your domino. So your domino is your reminder of our conversation today and to be a conduit of community. To be a shower-upper, to be a warrior with wobbly knees, to be curious to a fault, and know that there's a best friend in every room. And I bring this domino, for me, it's such a reminder. You know how sometimes we play dominoes and we intersect them, and sometimes we line them all up and they fall down? That each and every one of us is a living, breathing domino in this world. We intersect and impact endlessly. Every move you make, every breath you take, there's a song in there. I was getting a little motivational speaker there. Right? We matter. You count. You count individually. I'm a multi-domino gal. I keep one next to my phone in my office so that I know when I get on that phone, I'm putting something in motion. I have one on the dash of my car. That's a good place to remember, even though we're in our bubble doing whatever, brushing teeth, talking on the phone, algebra, the things we do in our car, that we are also impacting. And I keep one in my bathroom because we spend a lot of time coming and going and preparing to enter the day. How do you want to enter the day? This is your reminder to be a conduit of community. We started with a disclaimer, and I'm actually going to end with a disclaimer today. Look, it even says disclaimer. I feel compelled to tell you that I wrote this speech for myself. As a professional speaker, I find that I'm often telling people precisely what it is that I need to hear. And along with you, I'm just practicing, not perfecting. However, from time to time, there's someone in my audience who thinks I wrote this speech for them, that I spoke directly to their needs and to their heart. And I sincerely hope that that has happened for one of you today. Thank you for touching my community. Thank you. Oh, you're very kind.